Welcome to Soul Brew, where healing conversations flow as freely as the tea. Join us as we dive deep into the depths of the human experience, one sip at a time. Today's conversation is all about paying attention to your inner guidance system. Grab your favorite mug, settle into a cozy spot, and chime in on a conversation that will nourish your soul.
So I have these tea bags where it's a flower. And so when it's like, it's not a bag, but it's a tea, it's a flower. So like as it steeps, like it turns into this like really beautiful flower. So
that is so cool. I just have my like cute little A mug.
Yay. Okay. So start with like a introduction. So I could say, hey, I'm Rae. Reiki Hypnotherapist. I work with Reiki and hypnotherapy to help people on a journey of getting rid of their limiting beliefs. So my sessions are all about finding what's getting in the way of people's reaching their goals, and then going on a journey to discover what that is, and then to heal it in the best way possible. And so that's the work that I do. And I have so many great conversations all the time. And I wanted to just kind of share them. So I've invited Ashlee here and start and just give a short introduction of you and what's going on with your life and what brings you here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for inviting me to Soul Brew, because we do have such good conversation. Like it just flows every single time. And your work is so important. So thank you for also offering all of that, because it's so important for us. Anyone that comes through, they're definitely going to get that healing that they need. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashlee. I actually am, I would say, a dream walker that is here to connect people with their souls. And so my offering is called Medicine of the Soul. And I don't know right now what that is, but I have a YouTube and I have an Instagram, and that's what it is right now. So what that turns into, we'll see. But I'm so excited to talk with Rae today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think to that, I think that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you, is just more, I don't know what's going to come of this. I don't know. And none of us really know what's going on. We're just kind of allowing things to happen. But I've gotten to a place where I've learned to just let go of trying to know what's going to happen, trying to control the path. And just, I'm in this beautiful state of just allowing it to happen, listening to my inner guidance system, and then just following the path. And sometimes it's, I'm like, hey, are you sure you want me to go down that dark alley or look at this dark, shadowy stuff? And I do it. Like I have this really strong connection with my intuition. And so I just go where it takes me, which is a funny thing to think of. But, it's gotten me into such beautiful places. I've met such amazing people. And I don't know, I think I'm just along for the ride. So yeah.
I mean, I can just say when I first met you, I was like, oh, she's tapped in. She trusts herself. She's definitely like listening to her intuition. And it's like they always say, you're attracted, like likeness attracts likeness. And so whatever you see that you like in someone else, you have that within. And when we met, I was like, oh, I do have that, and that was like kind of where I was at the time was, okay, I know that I have something, but like, what is that something? And I was already on that journey, but attracting in those beings, those souls that reflect it to you, you're like, oh, great. Like, okay, I can trust myself. And so that was just really powerful when we first met. And it ties back into the shadow part because we have to look at our shadows to move through to get to that trust, because we live from our shadows usually and we're unconscious of it. And so it makes so much sense that you go down that dark alley and you find the light there, because that's exactly what shadow work is. That's what reprogramming the subconscious is. And it's just so magical. It really is so magical. And I see your magic.
Thank you. And it is magical, and it's a trusting process. It's trusting the process, as crazy as that may sound. And honestly, trusting the crazy. Like trusting the crazy. I used to say at some point, and this sounds crazy, that I knew that I was onto something when people would call me crazy. Like when my friends would be like, "You're crazy for doing that. You're crazy for moving there or moving, doing this." And I think and I won't say my friends, but just maybe like the people around me, when I was just kind of getting feedback on the things that I'm working on, the things that I'm doing. So I'm like, oh, now when I hear like the masses say, that's crazy, I'm like, ooh, I'm onto something. You're like, what are you gonna do with a boat? Like, why are you getting a boat? Who buys a boat? So I think that was another turning point where I'm like, I bought this boat to have this practice and help people. And I've never seen it done before. So that's when I'm like, okay, I'm onto something here.
Yeah. Well, you know what just popped into my mind? Can you talk about the subconscious? Like, you don't have to dive deep into it, but like maybe what is it? Like, why is it important?
Yeah. So within my hypnotherapy practice, I kind of explain it as it's like these automatic programming. So subconscious is your automatic programming. So you drove your car today at some point, and you went from like point A to point B, and it's like, do you remember putting your foot on the gas, putting your foot on the brake? Do you remember turning, what is that called? The blinker? Do you remember doing all of those things? And so most of us don't. And it's because our subconscious has a program already that we've created back when we learned to drive. And it has a program that just starts to run. And so this is kind of how I explain like the work that I do, is that when we get in our car, we turn it on, and then we activate a program. We activated a program that says, drive this car, get me here. And it's like you give your subconscious these instructions, and then it just does it. And you don't even have to think about it. And so the subconscious kind of runs your body. So you're breathing, your body's, it's all these behaviors and things that we do. Like my daughter says, I talk with my hands. Look, I picked that up somewhere. I have no idea where, but so how I use this in the practice is basically figuring out where there's a program that's running that's limiting you. So if there's something where you're telling yourself, I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy of this, it's probably just maybe a kid in third grade that told you suck or something. And then you started running a program as if that were true, and you start operating as if that were true. And so I work with the subconscious mind to find out when it started, and then figure out how we could change it. And so it could be just the automatic behavior. So instead of saying you suck, maybe it's like you're empowered, you're loved. And so instead of operating from I suck, I'm going to operate, and we're going to change it in the subconscious mind through hypnotherapy. And we're going to change it into whatever you want. So we always have a discussion before, but say in this instance is that I'm amazing. So instead of saying you suck, it's I'm amazing. And it's a quick, like, just programming. I mean, I do little things like this because it is just a quick switch that needs to change. And then once it is, you start operating that software instead of the old software that said you sucked.
So it's literally just, it's something that goes deeper than just looking at yourself in the mirror and saying those things, because you can do that. You can tell yourself that you're awesome, but do you really believe that you're awesome?
Exactly.
And that's what your subconscious work is doing. It's basically like cutting out that like questioning part of you that's like, wait a second, but do I really think that? Am I right?
Yeah, it's the subconscious mind is just running programs all day long. Your conscious mind will if you slow down, you can see what's going on. But for the most part, where we're operating from these subconscious behaviors all day long. So yes, the work in session does require you to slow down a little bit and to really find out what's getting in the way so that we can make those changes.
That makes a lot of sense, because we're flooded with so many things like at all times. And like, I mean, just not to like get into genders or anything, but I mean, you have the guys that like need to be super fit and like over 6 feet tall and like, you know, all of this stuff. And then you have the flip side where you have like, you have to be thin, you have to like look a certain way. And so of course that's going to hit your subconscious. It's going to get to you a little bit. And so the subconscious work, like, how does hypnotherapy kind of you don't have to like give how you do it, but just like, how do they tie together?
No. I know these I'm really happy you're asking. I answer these all day long, so they're they're like fresh in my head. So it's basically, and so I will also just say that I got into this work because I have a child. I have a child, and I realized that we are being hypnotized all day long. You watch, like you were just saying, you watch TV, we flip through magazines, and there's these very sneaky hypnotic ways that are reaching our subconscious. And so it's one of them is repetition. But I started studying this so that I could figure out a way to save my child. So I just have to say that's like the core of just understanding that I know this is happening all day long, and I would rather just get ahead of it for her. I'd rather put programs in her that are going to empower her and are going to get, keep her safe or whatever it is. I'd rather have like a better control rather than just sending her off into the world and letting her receive whatever those programs are. So
that's important. Oh my word. That is such a big mission in and of itself. Mm-hmm. Like, you had a daughter and you said, no, I'm changing it for her.
Yeah.
Like, and that is power.
And as I'm learning and teaching, I'm learning that we could kind of empower ourselves. We could notice that this is happening and then make a shift to change the narrative of the things that are being said. So one thing that you said was about how we're supposed to be skinny, we're supposed to be this. And that is just a program that was given. And we all watched Disney movies. We all we all got the happy endings and stuff. And so that was just a way that these programs have been instilled in us. A lot of them are from our parents who unknowingly just pass down their behaviors and their things. So what I do in the scope of work is kind of find out what they are. That's like the first step. Yes, find out what's going on. And then how it would work is figuring out what that program is, figuring out what a more positive program might be. And that is the co-creation process that we go through. So really finding out what your dreams and hopes and goals are. It's a very vulnerable process, because those are the things that we're almost hiding. Like, you're hiding these inner goals because you think you're supposed to be this way, and you're hiding. So that in itself is a process to find out what it is you really want, and to know that you actually can have this. And then to put in your subconscious mind, instead of the limiting beliefs that say you have to do this or you have to do that, but instead to empower you to first believe that it's possible.
That's so true. The belief part, because in order to even like bring something in, you have to believe it. You have to feel it, which means believing it, that it'll come. And how many of us like doubt every single day? Doubt. And the work, like the goals part, what comes to mind is everyone has different goals. And you're right, we do hide them. There's a part of us that is ashamed of, maybe I just want to have kids and, take care of my kids. Like, that is my goal for someone. Or maybe it's, to go be a CEO or to go make $1 billion. Like, maybe that is your goal, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it should be different.
You bring up, yes, I'm thinking of a client that I had, and I was working with her. And when I started working with her, her goal was to make $1 million. Like, she's like, I just want to have money. I want to not be poor, and just like, I want to feel good financially. So she had all these business ideas, and a lot of this work, sometimes we have to go into values. And so once we dug into her values as to like why she actually wants the goal, why she wants the money, it was really because she wanted to spend more time with her family. It was really because she was a new mom, and she wanted the time with her family. But it was almost counter to dig into that time or, to spend the time building the money. If she could find a way to just spend the time, then that's ultimately what she wanted. So when we ended our sessions, it was after she realized that, I've spent all this time trying to build this business, and my husband is really successful. He has money. I don't need, and he will let me be a stay-at-home, and we can figure out this thing. And it was just this really beautiful realization that took her some time to just recognize her values, and to realize what was in the way of getting in, building the business. Well, what was getting in the way was that it's not what she wanted. It wasn't what she wanted.
Isn't that wild? That's how important the work is, though, is because you have to dig deeper. You have to like go there with yourself. And sometimes we need a guide to take us there. And you're that guide. I'm that guide in a different way. But like, that's what we're here to do. And I just think it's so amazing. And I had to ask questions about it because we got to get the word out. And I want you to get the word out. So,
thank you. I want to. Thank you. I mean, I also just had one more thing, because I know you said how does the process work? And it's the reason why I was talking about like how we get these hypnotic suggestions is the TV. So one of them is just like, the repetition, right? It's the visuals, what we're seeing on TV. We're watching this TV, and there's different suggestible words and sounds and phrases that could be used to get into the subconscious mind. So when you watch TV, you have no idea what someone else has intended for you to receive. So it's a set of words, it's a set of phrases, they're different sets, and one of them is just repetition, doing the same thing over. But just in one TV show, you could pick up, you could leave there scared, or scared of the future, or feeling like you really, really want to get married now after watching this movie about marriage, or you don't you don't know. So I look at intentions, and I could kind of tell now how things are being led. And so that's on the side of how the world hypnotizes. And so in a session, it's more being mindful of that. So the Reiki is a way to kind of calm your body, calm your mind, so that you can be more suggestible. And so what we'll do in a session is create what you want. So we'll look at your goals, we'll create what you want, and then we'll start putting that in your mind, your subconscious, with different visuals. And like I said, strategically place words or phrases so that they're able to be received by the subconscious. So a lot of it is learning you and learning about how your inner system works and how it receives information, and then using that to deliver these new messages and these new programs that you want, because you have a choice in what you want with your life. So,
wow. Wow. And, I just had a vision right now, or like I saw in my mind's eye, the water, like you doing it on a boat is so important, because you have to flow with the work. So it makes sense that you were like, yeah, I'm doing this on a boat. Like, duh.
I'm telling you, it is amazing. It's amazing to see, because I do online sessions too, but there's nothing like the work on the boat, because it's so many, and you have the elements coming in, you have the water and the air. When you're releasing some of these old patterns, because that's what you have to do. It's like we'll release a pattern that wasn't working, and then we'll put one that will work for you. And so, but when you're releasing, it's like energy that's going into the air, and it's beautiful. It's calming. My favorite is to notice the faces after. When people come in, they come in with a face of like confusion, or I don't know, like a heaviness. And by the end of the session, every time it's lightness, it's freedom. You could just tell they feel so good. And that's my favorite part. I wish I could take a picture. That wasn't intrusive. I'm like, let me take a picture.
Yeah, let me take a picture. I mean, maybe one person at some point would let you. Like, they'll be like, yeah, take my picture. But, I feel like it's such a vulnerable moment that you have to be ready to be vulnerable with everyone. Oh, yeah,
and I don't like to intrude on someone's, like, it's a very personal space, and you never know what's come up. I mean, a lot of things come up. There's these deeper traumas and things. Sometimes it's really simple, where a girl told me I was mean and or I was ugly, and then forever I thought I was ugly. But sometimes it's I was beaten, so I got hit, or and having to kind of go back for a little bit to take it out, or to revisit it, to see it. It's a very vulnerable space. So.
Oh, for sure. And I'm sure that we carry things that aren't even ours. And what I mean by that, it's like generational. Yep. And so you have to like dig even deeper, because you're carrying something that wasn't ever yours, but was a part of you in a way, for those that like understand that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That's always what I say too. That I have a range of clients. I have from people that like I have to explain what an intuition is, to people that like, oh, the deep realms of the the deep spiritual talk, versus the kind of newbies that are just coming into this. So Yeah. Have you ever done any subconscious work, or like, what's your experience with the subconscious or hypnotherapy or anything? I know you've done
So,
Reiki, because we've met in the
yeah.
capacity of Reiki. So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
it's funny that you ask, because hypnotherapy is not something that I've ever like heard of. I mean, like, I've heard of it, but I've never actually met a hypnotherapist before. And then sure enough, I meet you, and then I meet another one who like doesn't practice anymore, but I was like, "Oh, subconscious work." And I have dabbled in subconscious work before. Like, I programmed my own subliminals to listen to when I'm dreaming, because I'm a very intense dreamer.
Yeah.
And so I need that, because there's just a lot that goes on. So sometimes I just need rest, kind of thing. So I've dabbled in that, but I've never gone to a hypnotherapist. It's something that I'm interested in and that I've been planning on scheduling with you at some point. And so, like, I'm kind of opening up to that new world, because I'm very in that spiritual space. But just like you, I also tend to bring in like the newbies who
Yeah.
don't really know, like, they're going through something, but they're not ready for that deep dive, and they might never be. But like, we're kind of those channels that just like bring them to ease. And they're like, okay, I trust. Like, you will hold me and I'll be okay. And so I don't really have any hypnotherapy work, but I am interested in it.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest here. My experience with hypnotherapy before I started studying it
Yeah.
was just knowing those shows in Vegas. Have you ever heard of those like stage shows and stuff?
Yeah, freak
Where
me
they
out
make you
every
do
time.
crazy stuff. And
Yeah.
so I get this a lot in my practice. Most people are scared of hypnotherapy because they don't want to get stuck on a stage naked, or like with their
Yeah.
clothes off, and doing these silly things. And I had to, it's not even that I had to get past it. I followed my intuition and actually just met with a hypnotherapist that I still work with all the time. And I just realized how it wasn't a scary thing, and it didn't have to be that.
Yeah.
And then upon going through the training, I learned that those stage shows, they're built around the people that happens to, they want that to happen to. Like, if you ever interview, they're kind of like the life of the party. They're like, I want to go into it, because there's nowhere in a session where you are not in control. Like, at any point you can wake up. So, I mean, the example that we use is always like, if I tell you to get on the chair and jump like a chicken, to a reasonable person, they won't do it, because it's not aligned with their values. So it's more, if you know your values, and then you won't get stuck and things like that. So that's why I didn't want to get into hypnotherapy. But once I have, and once I just saw the power of this, and now I could just kind of go to her and kind of just have these little tweaks. Like, I had a fear that came up, and I'm like, can we work on the fear? And it's just changing the fear into something else that's a little bit more empowering. And then I was able to do the thing. Like, I had to move my boat at some point, and I had a fear that was coming up about parking it, because you got to park in those little spots.
Yeah.
And it just kept coming up. I had anxiety. I'm just like, and just by just like a little tweak in my brain of whatever was holding me back, and then I was able to do it. So.
But you bring something up that I feel like is worthy of talking about, is that even though you have this successful business and, you're helping people, you still have to do your own work too. And like, it's not just like I'm healed and I'm going to help you. Like, it's a continual thing, right? It's something that even you have to do, because you're also absorbing their energy too, like, as a healer. Yeah. And so I think that's just important to highlight, is like, you don't have everything figured out. You still do your stuff, just like I do mine.
Yeah. And I think for me, that's just about having I created an amazing support system.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout a day, so much could happen. Like just in one day, like I had my daughter, she didn't want to get dressed or she didn't want to eat breakfast or something happened. Like, and it's right before my first session, and I had, this kind of jarring thing that happened, and I had the conversation with her. I got through it, but I still was holding this energy, and in order for me to support my client, to show up fully and whole and be able to give a space, I have to process my stuff. So I was able to, and just this one example, just call one of my friends, someone in my community, tell them what happened, talk it out, have them give guidance on what I could do. Sometimes it's, in this case, it was working through it and then I was able to do it. Sometimes it's, I'm not able to show up for that next person, and maybe communicating that and coming from a space of authenticity and integrity and saying that, hey, I'm not able to show up for you right now, and rescheduling or something like that. So yes, the work is day to day. It's constantly checking in with my inner guidance system and realizing where I have the capacity, where I don't, where I need to grow. And it's a constant healing process, and I think it's just going to continue to do that, because the more I learn, the more I grow, and the more the next thing is to learn. I'm never going to know everything in the world. So
yeah, we're multidimensional. We have so much endless learning to do, like on all sides, from our ancestors, from the future, from like other galaxies. Like if you're into that, there's so much learning out there, and you're right, you're going to grow. That means you're going to absorb just as much energy. And so it really takes like a clear channel to do those things. So of course you're going to like go through your stuff. You're still human, even though sometimes we look at you or me and you're like, wait, are they human? I don't know.
It feels, I've come a long way from when I didn't process things. So I do feel like sometimes I'm like, I count my wins. I'm like, I got through this day. Can you believe this happened, that happened, this happened? I helped this person, and I still have energy. Like, and I still am not depleted or something, and it does come from processing throughout the day. So, so how does that come up for you? Like processing throughout the day? Are you able to fit that into your life, or is it a end of the day thing? Or tell me a little bit about how you're processing throughout the day.
Yeah, of course. Well, I always start off the day like no phone, and I just kind of, make an intention for the day, just kind of settle into my body. And then I have my daily like morning meditation where I connect to ground into Gaia, connect to my higher self, connect to source, and just kind of like clear my field every single morning. Like I have to do that. And then throughout the day, what I like to do, because I'm an empath, as I'm sure you are. So it's just really easy to pick up on things. And so what I like to do, and this was taught to me by one of my mentors, is like pretend like you're chewing a piece of gum. And when you're chewing it and you go to blow a bubble of energy around you. And then when you blow that bubble, just allow source energy or God or whoever that you decide is your higher power to just fill the bubble and cleanse it. And so I do that like multiple times a day, and it's really helped me kind of just like stay in my own energy and like really clear and figure out what's mine versus what's not. And then at night, I'm a very heavy dreamer, like I said, because I astral travel like all day, every day, pretty much. But I'm in charge of it now. So for those that do it too, you'll know what I mean. But I have to set an intention before I go to bed, like in my dream space. And so I'm sure to like cleanse my field, set the intention, and then I know that I'm protected in the dream space. So at some point, I'll talk about dreams when I feel a little bit more confident in that space. But what I'll say about it for now is that dreams are timelines that we're living even though we're dreaming. So our spirit is out there doing stuff in other timelines, in other spaces, in other galaxies. And we're having conversations. We're like working through things in our earthly life, but also with our spirit. So I have heavy dreams because a lot of things come to me in that space. A lot of people, a lot of beings just come and like give me knowledge, or I give them knowledge, or, you know, something gets worked out. And so it's really important to, or at least for me, to just like make sure my field is good to go, because there at times were things I didn't want in my dream space that would take over, and it would overflow into my day the next day. So that's kind of like what I do. I'm just like very cognizant of, yeah, I need to be cleansed. I need to be clear so I know what's mine. Because that's the most important thing, is like, wait, how do I feel about this? Or like, wait, is that even mine? Like, and I think in your circle, you and another person in the community was like, wait, why don't you just ask? Like, why don't you just ask what percent is yours? And I cannot even tell you. I would be at work and like I would have to run to the bathroom to just like cry, right? Out of nowhere. And I run to the bathroom and I go and I'm like, wait, what percent of this is mine? And yeah, I'd have to wait like a couple seconds, couple minutes. And then it would always come back 0.
Thank you for joining us today for a soul-nourishing episode of Soul Brew, where healing conversations flow as freely as the tea. I hope you found solace, wisdom, and inspiration in our dialogue. And until next time, take a moment to sip slow, breathe deep, and embrace the healing power of connection. Stay tuned for more heartwarming conversations over tea. And until then, may your cup overflow with peace and serenity. Take care.